Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So last week, Skiller_R6 asked this question about my Paragon setup, and that's exactly what we're going to look at today. So let's get to it.
Now, I'd just like to point out before we start, I am not an expert on Paragon whatsoever, and I only use a few of the different Paragon trees, but I'm still going to go through and show you exactly how I have my points assigned for each one. So we're starting off with Vanquisher. So this is the first Paragon that is unlocked when you start in the game. And basically with this, I've just got the skills and Paragon points assigned that allow me to have the most from this. So you can see I've got them on potency, attack, life, and armor penetration as well, and I've done that with quite a few of the Paragon trees, so that is basically all I use that for. Now Survivor I have maxed out with 100 points, and the reason for this is for this skill here, which is indestructible. So fatal attacks from monsters instead reduce you to 1 life and make you immune to all damage from monsters for 3 seconds. Cannot occur more than once every 120 seconds. This Paragon tree is really good if you are under the combat rating for dungeons, for raids, anything like that, as it will actually help you with your survivability. So if you're someone that is currently under the combat rating but you are being boosted in Inferno 6 dungeons, I'd really recommend going in with the Survivor Paragon tree, simply so that you have that indestructible active, and it means your teammates aren't having to revive you all the time. Also, we have Treasure Hunter. So this tree is one that I don't really use. A lot of people absolutely love this. I have never personally seen a benefit from it. Yes, you can get more gold from this Paragon tree. However, I didn't see much of an increase using that compared to my normal PvE ones. Moving on to Gladiator. So this is one of my favourite Paragon trees. I do still use this simply for the cheap death. So fatal attacks from players instead reduce you to 1 life while making you immune to damage and stunning you for 3 seconds. After 3 seconds, you recovered 60% life, and this cannot occur more than often than once every 210 seconds. So although the cooldown on that is quite slow, if you don't have a survivor pet, this is the way to go in PvP. This is a really good tree still to use, even though it might feel like it's a little bit outdated. But do not underestimate Gladiator. It's still a really good tree to use for those PvP instances. Moving on, looking at Soldier, this is a tree that I just have points assigned for secondary boosts. So I've got my armor penetration, potency, and resistance there, and that is basically all I use this tree for, is for the boost on those secondary stats. Mastermind again is the exact same story here. I don't really ever use this tree, although a couple of my warband guys do sometimes use this for raids and castle defense as well, because of some of the skills like this, so superior coordination, and also you get increased critical hit chance when you're in a party using this tree from covert operations, and also find weakness. So while your party has members from 4 different classes, your attacks have a 5% chance to make bosses vulnerable for 3 seconds. However, the damage taken by vulnerable targets is increased by 20%. So this is only really worth using if you are running it with a teammate that has some kind of shield, so monk, crusader, or maybe a necromancer that's going to give you that little bit of immunity from hits there. Moving on, looking at Massacre. So this is a really good tree to use for open world farming. So whether you're running in a party or running solo, this has this skill here called Boundless Stride. So during a kill streak, every 10 kills grants you a 3% increased movement speed up to a maximum of 15%. So that one is really good. That will give you that increased movement speed. If you're someone that maybe feels like your movement is a little bit slow when you're farming, I would recommend going in with the Massacre tree. As you can see though, this isn't really one that I use, and again I just have points assigned for my secondary boosts. Same with Brawler. This is a tree that I don't personally ever use, and I just have points assigned for things like armor penetration. Jewelist again is another tree that I don't use. You can see there's not many of the skills I have active here, and I just have points assigned to boost those secondary attributes and damage and life again as well. So it's mainly armor penetration and resistance and potency there. Apothecary, so this was one of the trees that was added for the Inferno levels, and I've never really used this tree at all. This is about boosting your life recovery, and it's just not something that I use. Weaver, however, this is my favourite Paragon tree, so I have this completely maxed out, and I use this for every kind of PvE instance. So this has Unseen Dynamism, so you now gain a stack of Unseen Dynamism as you hit enemies with either primary attack or skill, and this stacks up to 10 stacks. So basically your skills and primary attacks, if you use them together, it will boost the damage and your critical hit chance as well, especially if you have this maxed out of all of the skills. So I'm just going to scroll through and show you what these other skills are here, and these are obviously only active if you have this tree active. So that's how the Paragon trees work. Each Paragon tree, if you have one active, that is the one that you will be getting those boosts from. So it also has Uncanny, so while you have 10 or more stacks of Unseen Dynamism, you will gain Uncanny, which increases your critical hit chance, and Gifted, so Unseen Dynamism now stacks up to 15 times. So this can really increase your damage, especially in PvE stances, like I said, and that's why I really like this tree. I just find it works really nicely. Moving on, we have Executioner. So this tree is great for PvP, but again, I would recommend this is better maybe for players with higher resonance, and if you have a survivor pet with that survivor skill. Myself, I can't really use this until I have that, but this has some really nice benefits to it, and it's basically, the name is in the title, so take down weakened enemies with devastating blows. So the whole point of this tree is it gives you more damage against players with less life, which I'm just showing you here from some of the skills. It also increases your movement speed when an enemy player's life falls below 30% within 12 feet of you. And yeah, just really nice skills from the Executioner Paragon Tree. So I'll probably find that I use this a lot more in PvP once I've managed to gain a survivor pet, but for now that's one that I just am kind of sleeping on because I can't get away with using it in PvP. I die way too easily. Champion is another one. So defeating successive enemy players makes you stronger. So you have Grizzled Veteran as one of the skills, Swift Strikes. So basically when you defeat players, your attack speed increases. So this has some really nice skills again, really strong tree for PvP. You've got Overpower, so stacking up to 5 times. Just really great skills in this Paragon tree for PvP. And again, the more you upgrade this, the more benefits you get. So a lot of these Paragon trees, how they work is that the last skill will boost the other skills within that tree that are active. And like I mentioned, these trees will not give you these bonuses, these bonus skills or benefits unless you have that tree active. So moving on to Warden, this is a tree that I do have maxed out, and I've also tested this in PvP a few times, especially in Battleground where it works really nicely. So you have heavy armor, so every enemy within 5 meters reduces the damage you take by 2%, stacking up to 4 times. Your size maximum life is increased with the rugged skill. You've got combat tricks, which allows you to move freely within enemies, and damage is reduced. Combat expertise, so this stacks with the heavy armor and rugged, and that increases the percentage on those as well. So and then you've got Defender of Sanctuary. So when you're attacked 5 or more times, you gain a shield. So this works, as I said, really well in Battleground, especially if you have lots of enemies around. And I just really like this tree. However, I do feel personally that for me, it would work better if I had a survivor pet. But you can see the skills that are in this are actually really nice and work beautifully together, especially if you are someone with a lot of critical hit chance. You'll find this tree is very beneficial in those PvP instances. So let's now move on and take a look at the last Paragon tree, which is the Ranger Paragon. So obviously the name kind of gives it away. This is really good for range players. So you become more deadly the farther you are from your enemies. Now, I don't really use enough ranged builds. My builds are very much close combat, as you will have noticed from all of my videos, especially PvP, but Ranger is a really good PvP tree to use if you are someone that does keep your distance in any kind of PvP instance. So you've got all the skills in this. I'm just going to quickly click through them so you can read them. They are all about keeping your distance and creating more damage from a distance. So if you're someone, say you're playing Wizard and you're using a beam build, this tree would be really beneficial for you, especially if you have that survivability, which you will probably have just from the fact that you're keeping your distance from other players. But also if you have a survivor pet, Ranger tree would work really nicely for you. But like I said, this is only for people that are actually keeping their distance from the enemies. So beam builds work really well for this. If you've got damage over time effects, I imagine that would also work really nicely with this Paragon tree if you've got those active on other players, because you may actually have distance from them. So you've probably noticed in Battleground you might have damage over time effects and someone is running away from you, and that basically the more distance they create between you, the more likely that is going to give more damage. But that is basically it for me. You can see there's just a few trees that I basically use. It's pretty much just Weaver and Gladiator that I go in with, and occasionally the Warden Paragon. But that is it from me today. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, thank you for watching and have a great day.